Welcome to episode 424 of the Microsoft Cloud IT Pro podcast, recorded live February 9, 2026. This is a show about Microsoft 365 and Azure from the perspective of IT pros and end users, where we discuss a topic or recent news and how it relates to you. In this episode, Ben and Scott get back together again with a plan for one topic that suddenly goes awry with the recent announcement of the new Microsoft 365 E7 plan. So instead of talking about GPOs and configuration policies, we postpone that for a future episode and dive into the world of the up-and-coming E7 plan, what's included in this plan, and our perception of its value. With this announcement and the inclusion of Microsoft 365 Copilot in the E7 plan, we also discuss some of the new features coming to Microsoft 365 Copilot Wave 3 that were announced at the same time. So, let's talk about Microsoft 365 E7. We should talk about E7.
I want to open with this, and maybe this is a little bit of a different way to go with this.
Okay.
I'm going to start maybe not from the hero entry point, which would be like a raw, super, here's the user value of this to you, but rather from the partner angle. So I always think it's interesting how Microsoft interacts with partners. There's a massive partner ecosystem, and they very much rely on partners to co-sell and upsell opportunities to customers. Everybody wins. Microsoft makes money, partners make money, and customers get the functionality that they're looking for, all for the same price along the way. So I'm going to start with the partner blog and just read you a couple of things. So Microsoft 365 is the frontier suite designed for a human-led, agent-operated enterprise, turning human intent into AI action that functions securely and at scale. To accomplish this, Microsoft 365 E7 includes access to Microsoft Agent 365, which is the control plane to govern and scale agents. Okay, yeah, like you said, here's an E7. It's got some new stuff in it, primarily, and including access to AI experiences and Microsoft Agent 365. All good. Now, here's the thing. So starting on April 1st, 2026, to accelerate Microsoft 365 E5 to Microsoft 365 E7 upsell and Agent 365 adoption, Copilot plus Power Accelerate are going to include Agent 365 across immersion briefings and visioning and proof of concept engagements, as well as deployment accelerators. And all of these things are now going to be included as eligible workloads for core tier 1 strategic product accelerators and growth levers for cloud solution providers. So prepare thyself. Even if you didn't know what an E7 was or know that it's coming, you are about to know as your resellers. You're in this boat yourself, saying, hey, out there working in the partner ecosystem and selling to customers. If you were getting tired of hearing about AI, guess what? You're not going to be able to take a nap anytime soon.
I have a couple of issues. I'm going to take issue with a couple things in here. One, Microsoft 365 E7 bundles Microsoft 365 E5, Microsoft 365 Copilot, Entra Suite, and Agent 365. Yes, that is true. However, Entra Suite was already announced that it was going to be included with E5. Devil's
always in the details.
Yes, technically that's true. You are getting Entra Suite with an E7, but you were getting it already with an E5, so that's not a value add for the E7. It's really Microsoft 365 Copilot and Agent 365 is the way I would phrase it, because everybody that's already on E5 gets Entra Suite. That being said, this is not a bad deal if you are interested, if you're going to use Copilot. E5's also July. E5 is going up to $60 a month. Copilot's already $30 a month. There's your $90 a month. Agent ID is essentially costing you $9 a month. This is also an add-on. This is the part that surprised me. Agent ID is not it. Agent 365 is a $15 a month add-on. That, to me, maybe there's going to be some more stuff that comes out in the next month. I have a hard time digesting that based on what I've seen comparing a normal tenant versus a tenant with Agent 365. Because I do have it on in preview in mine, I was actually on a call with a client this morning, and we were talking about that. We pulled up our two admin centers together, like admin.microsoft.com, and we're comparing what he had versus what I had, because frankly, I kind of forgot what it looked like before Agent 365. $15 a month, I was struggling with the cost of this. Again, maybe there's more features coming, but it looked like to me, it was really just a lot of data and reporting that's in Agent 365. A few governance things that are in there, but you already have some of it in just normal Microsoft 365. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. The other thing with this that I have not been able to figure out is, does Agent 365 have to be licensed for every user that is touching an agent that's managed or governed by Agent 365? Or does it only have to be licensed by those admins that are using Agent 365 on the administrative side? Because Agent 365 is really a governance construct.
Very much so.
Not really an end user focused thing. Some of the licensing gets phrased where every user that benefits from this service has to be licensed for it, which would push this to everybody. There's other ones that are like only the people actually doing the config, the administration, that type of stuff have to be licensed for it. And I haven't been able to decipher which boat this falls into, where do you end up with E7s for admins and E5s plus Copilot for everybody else? Or how is this going to shake out? Because $15 a month for a client or client customer, I have customers that are 8,000 employees. That's not an insignificant amount of money.
Yeah. I wasn't able to parse it myself either. So like you said, per user, per maybe like number of agents, like a particular user consumes. Because if you look across, I think any large enterprise, you're probably going to have folks who use these things, even if they're licensed for them, and those who don't. And you're going to have varying levels of consumption there. So I know like across the folks that I work with, I'll start with like kind of like my hyperlocal team. A lot of us use things like WorkIQ. We use M365 Copilot with lots of modes in there. Like I have access to both. When I use like the researcher agent, I have felt access to GPT-5 and Claude. We're all in this mode of kind of trying to sometimes, I think, emulate other features that exist in other properties. So like one of the interesting things here is Copilot Cowork, which is built on Anthropic's or Claude Cowork.
Okay.
So Claude Cowork is really cool. I'm actually kind of excited to see that and have that. But if I'm using Claude Cowork, is that like one thing that I'm using? Or is that all the underlying subtasks and sub-agents that I push out? Because like, hey, in Claude Cowork, I can do things like go into this folder on my desktop and read the contents of these PDFs and rename them all in this format, blah, blah, blah. And it can touch out and it can do that. And I can have it spider out and do all sorts of weird things. I'm wondering if M365 Coworks and do the same thing, but then I become a heavy consumer of agentic experiences where the person who's sitting next to me, who maybe doesn't need these things, realize them, that value is not inflicted upon them to go ahead and pick them up. Like, are you going to have to license them and have them come through just because they're part of the organization and because they opened up Microsoft 365 Copilot once? Oh, we'll see. It's going to be a really weird time at True Up when these things come through.
Yeah, I missed the Copilot Cowork that's coming as I was reading through these too. That'll be interesting because that, brings in some of the multi-step tasks. I'm still waiting. I don't see anything about it in here. I should look for this article or look through here. Chat and Copilot, agents and chat. I was looking for MCPs to see if there was any updates in MCPs, and it's only mentioned once in here where it's chat and Copilot, agents for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, let you move into app native work with agents and Copilot supporting open standards like Agent SDK and MCP apps. Agents and Copilot. I mean, you could kind of already do MCPs and agents.
Well, you can do agents. You can't do MCPs in Copilot.
Can't you do, like, if you go build an agent in Studio, you can incorporate MCPs?
If I build it in Studio. But I think that's a very different experience because then we're talking about Copilot Studio, not M365 Copilot, not to be confused with Microsoft Copilot. We got a lot of Copilots here. Like, It's Oprah has handed them.
Planes only have one Copilot. Why do we need like 20 Copilots for working?
Because more agents, more money, I guess. We'll see where that goes. I'm still I would really like to see both OpenAI with ChatGPT on the desktop and Microsoft bring in the ability to integrate MCPs with the native chat experiences. I think that would be a big win and low-hanging fruit, especially if you're doing things like Claude Cowork style now with Copilot Cowork. That would be a really powerful thing. Not just go read all these PDFs and rename them in this format, but maybe go read all these PDFs, rename them in this format. And then once you've done that, create an inventory of them and go create me a Power BI report. Or go and update this system over here with this information, depending on the connectivity and things that are out there and available to you. Or heck, just to be able to extend the capabilities of these LLM-driven experiences. If I think about remote MCPs and things like you and I, in our day-to-day, both use the Microsoft Learn MCP server and have that integrated in. Hey, it's there, it's available. I would love to have that in just a native Copilot chat and be able to augment things in my world. Hey, if I'm writing a product requirements document, like a PRD, it would be super cool if I could not only have that PRD, evaluate it for tone and grammar and correctness and things like that. Wouldn't it be nifty if I could bounce a PRD across and up against public documentation to see maybe where I'm right, where I'm wrong, where I'm breaking something, especially if I'm thinking about and ideating an experience that builds on top of existing functionality or constructs. Today, I can do that, but I have to build a custom experience to do it or rely on somebody else to build me a custom experience to do it. It'd be kind of cool if that stuff was just there, native, baked in, ready to go. So I think it's all to say there's a lot more integration points that they can do with M365 Copilot and the desktop experience of it and just the declarative agents. And I think they could open up a whole ecosystem of consumption, just raw consumption. If that's what the game is, raw consumption and being able to offer customers these experiences at their expense, hey, we're paying for licensing, potentially add-ons. Even with opportunities to expand into pay-go or burst pricing, should I go beyond a certain limit or should my organization, I think there's a lot of runway there to just introduce experiences. So this starts to open it up a little bit, but I don't know. I was looking maybe for different things and different enablers in there for getting it going.
This episode is brought to you by TrustedTech. If you're managing Microsoft 365, you already know licensing isn't simple. E3 versus E5, the brand new E7 licenses, Copilot security bundles, and with price changes coming in July 2026, the stakes are getting higher. TrustedTech helps IT leaders make sense of their Microsoft 365 environment with a free licensing consultation. Their engineers analyze what you're licensed for and what you're actually using, and where you can optimize, whether that means consolidating security tools, preparing for Copilot, or eliminating wasted spend. Plus, they offer proactive and reactive support, which has been awarded yet another Solution Partner Designation from Microsoft for support services. If you want a clear, data-backed plan that has helped over 7,500 subscribing customers save up to 20% on Microsoft 365 before your next renewal, visit trustedtech.team/MSCloudPro M365 and schedule your free consultation today. We're getting away a little bit from our E7, but if I was going to say what you will about responses, right? We could talk all day about our ChatGPT's response is better, our Claude's response is better, Copilot better, all of that. Just from a pure technology enablement perspective, if I was going to give one area where I feel like Copilot is falling way behind, it's that right there. The easy integration of MCP servers and allowing end users. And again, I get you still would need some governance controls in place because enterprises don't want their users just going out and connecting to any MCP server.
But hey, Agent 365's there. You can build that control plane. The ability to build that exists within the ecosystem.
Figuring out how to integrate MCP servers into Microsoft 365 chat. That is it's not the only, but it's the number one one of the top reasons I will flip over to Claude from Microsoft 365 is because I have up to like 11 or 12 MCP servers now.
Control plane governance idea for Microsoft is build a control plane and build the capability to put MCPs in M365 Copilot. Leave it like so it's wide open and it can be locked down, and enterprises can push MCPs to certain like business organizations with known configurations. So like you said, give them the operational control. Like, oh, hey, you can play with you can play with the Azure MCP server, which has hundreds of tools in it, but only people in this division or this business team or with this set of responsibilities get it, and we're going to pre-configure it for you. So authentication is going to be locked in, all those kinds of things. Or I can't think of a good example off my head, but like the Custo MCP, you can configure a bunch of like Custo MCP servers in it. Same thing. Like I'm going to push this down to you, and you're only going to be allowed to connect to these Custo servers, not these other ones through these kinds of things.
Right.
And I think if Microsoft was to do that, it would actually probably do some interesting things in the MCP ecosystem. I wonder if it would actually lead to like a collaboration opportunity with Anthropic to bring in like additional operational controls or like extensions to that protocol to be able to make those things a little bit easier.
You know what else this would help with? We may have talked about this before too. We would not need 20 or 30 or 40 copilots. We would have one copilot with MCPs and then Azure Storage. You can go build your MCP. Security team, you go build an MCP. Sentinel, you go build an MCP. Let's not reinvent Copilot 50 times. Let's create one Copilot, make it extensible, governable, manageable, configurable from an MCP perspective, and let all these different teams build MCP servers that you tie into your Copilot. Scott, we should go work for Microsoft, go fix this, and then quit 6 months later. You seen that meme?
There's lots of things that I would like to do. And as a PM at Microsoft, I can tell you it's not that easy. I wish it was. Like I would love to wave my magic wand in a couple of these areas. And it's easy to
do all the things,
armchair design on it, but it does leave interesting opportunities to kind of continue to extend it out. I do wonder, like, as this kind of keeps coming, so you think about things like Work IQ, Agent 365, Copilot integrations within the Office suite, like Excel, Word, things like that. Is this where it stops, or is this like the start to some of these licensing experiences? So like, is M365 E7 kind of like the stopping point, or do you still get a bunch of add-ons and other things in it? Because, I mean, if you think about it, like OpenAI, Claude, they're charging $200 a month for their professional ones. And those are just for access to the LLMs and the underlying functionality, like these agentic experiences, things like that. Really, in like Microsoft land, you're getting the Office suite, you're getting all the identity, all the governance, all the management that comes from Entra and Intune, SharePoint, Exchange, these different things. Like, it still feels like there's other room in there too. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of the end versus the start.
You don't think they're going to keep going with an E9?
I don't think this is the end of the licensing conundrum. Like, it will not stop at $99 a month.
It won't stop. No, 100%. It'll keep going up. And I was talking to a client about this morning, and I was surprised. They were not like, they saw this and they were not, oh no, there's no way we're doing that. It was we're already paying $60 for E5 and $30 for Copilot. And this governance question comes up more and more with everybody creating agents and the ability to create agents. Is this $99 a month does not feel unreasonable for what you get. Again, I would like to see a little bit more functionality come out in Agent 365, and it's still in preview. We very well may see that particular product to continue to evolve, or even in the next, it's beginning of March. We have March, April. We have 2 more months. There may be some stuff they're working on that's going to pop up in there in the next couple months that really help. Because they do say Agent 365, we'll put the link in the show notes. There's a nice table they have in there where you're getting observe, monitor, and manage agents in real time. You're getting govern agents through their life cycle, and you're getting secure and protect all agents across your enterprise with Agent 365. Those are kind of the 3 things you're getting with that particular product. And then again, they throw in that chart, the Entra Suite for $12 a month and say, oh, look, it's only $99. If you're listening to this, ignore the Entra Suite. It's going to be bundled in the $60 one anyways. It's devil's in the details there.
You mentioned kind of talking about this maybe with a couple customers. I was maybe a little bit surprised by the phrasing or positioning of this. Like I could have seen this as Microsoft 365 E7, like the ultimate enterprise suite or whatever it happened to be. And it's being framed as the frontier worker suite. So when I think about like the phrasing of frontier in AI land, primarily that's been positioned around the frontier AI companies, the frontier models like ChatGPT, like OpenAI training GPT and Anthropic training Claude, things like that. Like there's only a handful of frontier models out there and frontier model trainers. I kind of looked at that and I was like, oh, is this targeted just at those companies? Like that was weird to me in my head. And I guess it's being positioned as companies on the frontier of consumption of AI experiences, which is also an interesting way to kind of frame it. I don't know if you put it out there and buy it for yourself. Like, do you consider yourself on the cutting edge, or do you just consider yourself like, hey, like you said, it's easy to rationalize the pricing for these things. If I'm already paying 60 here, 90 here, 10 here kind of thing, you get to the price pretty quick.
I didn't think too much about the phrasing of it. I kind of glanced at it. I saw the frontier transformations. As you're talking about it, I think it is absolutely confusing for a couple reasons. One, what you said. They say in this article, frontier transformation starts with a simple idea. AI must do more than optimize what already exists, unlocking new levels of creativity, innovation, and growth. So I think in here, they're maybe thinking about it as unlocking the next level of AI in a company. But to me, it also gets confusing is, have you seen that in Copilot, you also have the frontier program in Copilot, which is essentially the beta preview features of Copilot. So when they come out with different agents or different innovations within Copilot, it goes from like, I guess maybe private preview, whatever comes before public availability, then it comes to the frontier program. So if you can go like get signed up for the frontier experiences, which is just a fancy way of saying beta experiences for preview.
I think about it as like the old TAP programs, like technology. I think technology access previews was what those were.
Yeah, only I don't know that this is NDA as like the TAP stuff was. I think it's a little bit more accessible to the public, but that phrasing confuses me when you start thinking about powering frontier transformation. I think they're thinking about frontier the same way in both of those as being kind of on the cutting edge, the leading edge, pushing everything forward. But it's still two different kind of programs where I think the terminology, it gets confusing.
I mean, I can put the mental mapping together, but it was a little interesting, right? Like if I'm the purchasing decision maker and I don't know what frontier models are, and I think that just general phrasing of frontier versus early access and some of the other things that have been out there in the ecosystem for a long time. And maybe I'm just being like old man yells at cloud, right? I've got my gray hair and I'm a curmudgeon, but it is a weird kind of positioning. I can see where it gets them, but I also wonder, we'll see where it goes. I'd be interested in hearing anecdotes as you're out there talking to more customers and seeing some of that stuff.
Do you feel overwhelmed by trying to manage your Office 365 environment? Are you facing unexpected issues that disrupt your company's productivity? Intelligink is here to help. Much like you take your car to the mechanic that has specialized knowledge on how to best keep your car running, Intelligink helps you with your Microsoft Cloud environment because that's their expertise. Intelligink keeps up with the latest updates in the Microsoft Cloud to help keep your business running smoothly and ahead of the curve. Whether you are a small organization with just a few users up to an organization of several thousand employees, they want to partner with you to implement and administer your Microsoft Cloud technology. Visit them at Intelligink.com/podcast. That's INTELLIGINK.com/podcast for more information or to schedule a 30-minute call to get started with them today. Remember, Intelligink focuses on the Microsoft Cloud so you can focus on your business. I'll definitely keep you updated as I talk to people about it and see what people are saying about the frontier transformation. or the Powering Frontier transformation, the new E7 licenses. I don't think there was anything else really in that article. Multi-model intelligence, Agent 365. Yeah, the Frontier Suite. Available May 1st. I think we mentioned that. That's when you'll be able to go get it, go buy it. But this kind of is all bundled in Wave 3. So I would also, even if you're not interested in E7, go read these articles that we'll post in here because it does talk about like Wave 3 of Copilot, and like the Copilot co-work that you mentioned is not necessarily an E7 aspect to it. E7 was just kind of bundled in this article that talks about all the Wave 3 improvements to Microsoft 365 Copilot.
I think there's some exciting things in there. And then there's also just the general churn and kind of pace that we're in right now. So one of the things that kind of got to me was, and this is again like old man yells at cloud kind of thing, but it's still thinking back, and I don't think enterprises have changed this much, where you still have to do like enterprise training programs, get people up to speed on here's Word, here's Excel. You hire a new like frontline worker, things like that. They kind of continue to play around with the names of things there. So if you look at Copilot within Word, Excel, PowerPoint, things like that, they've been on this journey of like Copilot there to Copilot agents, and now they're just kind of like built in. And that phrasing goes. And that all happened over the course of not too long. Like you're not talking like a decade to get there. You're talking like a year to 2 years and potentially less time as that stuff turns around. That kind of struck me was, yes, you can go and empower your organizations with these things. Like maybe you do. But I do wonder about like the human lift to get people to really understand these tools and how they work, and frankly, where the rough edges are versus like the real value within any given business. I think that's going to still take some time to shake out. It was also interesting to see, and this is interesting given like the current climate in the US and things that are going on, some of the call outs and some of the additional work that they're doing to integrate Claude into more and more of the stack. So if you're an M365 customer today at a tenant level, you can kind of choose if you have access to Anthropic models within your tenant and within your deployments. So that's been there for a while. That operational control, it's been available within Researcher, things like that. One of the interesting things Wave 3 bought is bringing is Claude just available in mainline chat. So, if you've been following the news.
I saw that.
So if you've been following the news in the United States, Anthropic was declared a supply chain risk by the Department of Defense. And that has like downstream impacts of Anthropic being able to be consumed within not only the Department of Defense, but also like broader US government and defense contractors and all sorts of things. Interesting that continues to like kind of steam ahead, at least in regular Copilot. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very glad to see it there. I think the Anthropic models we talked about this. Like if you're going to spend $20 a month on some AI thing, go buy Claude. That's probably the best one. It does all the MCP integrations, but also the responses are very well tuned for like enterprise and business in a way that ChatGPT is not, and by extension, Copilot running the ChatGPT models is not as well. So I'm very excited to see Claude coming. Like this makes me want to go and just kind of keep like opening and closing the Microsoft 365 app and seeing if it comes available a little earlier in the tenant that I play along with. So having that, the other thing, having that model choice is like really cool to me. I do wonder about that for users though. Like, are you going to really teach your people in finance, like, hey, when you're working with this Excel workbook, make sure you flip it to Claude. When you're working over here on this Word document, make sure you flip it to OpenAI. Oh, when you're working over here, make sure you not only flip it to OpenAI, but flip it to this model. Like, I don't know if it's going to get that far, but that was always a little bit of friction and consumption of, and kind of being able to pick up some of those things. So we shall see where this one goes. I imagine you're going to go and buy this stuff and get hands-on with it. So I'll get lots of Ben feedback on it.
Yeah, I'll go buy it. I'll have to go redo my licensing and cancel some and buy other ones and sort through all that mess. You talk about model switching. I bet it's going to depend on your users, but maybe not business. I'm so used to in any AI tool, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT, of being able to go pick which Visual Studio Code for that matter, being able to pick which model I want to use and do all of that. I feel like that's going to become just a normal thing.
I think you and I are the outliers. We would be atypical to a general frontline worker that's out there and running through things. And not even frontline workers. I think workers across the non-technical divisions within an organization. So if you're in HR, finance, legal, things like that, I think you'll be able to guide customers to a certain point, but there's a bunch of mental overhead and friction kind of along the way there. And you even saw that in the kind of commercial models and releases over time, right? There was a period of time where they didn't refer to like even OpenAI with ChatGPT, where they started referring to things like the model names. I could remember when ChatGPT 5 launched and it was Strawberry, and they had like cuter code names to them, so you didn't have to decipher the numbers and the codes and things behind it. I think that is a general friction point. I hope that improves. Like a lot of these like agentic experiences are kind of getting better at directing into certain models. And I've also seen companies, and I don't know how this will work in M365 Copilot land, but certainly within like custom applications, there's a lot of companies that are kind of spinning up around the LLM proxy interface. So like go ahead and route all your requests to me, and I'll help you choose the best model based on the intentionality of your request. So there's a little bit of overhead there, right, to evaluate the prompt the user sent in and whatever, but could potentially save you a whole bunch of money when you're talking about executing some of these models.
I need to go figure out how to get Claude to show up. I still don't have Claude in any of my M365. Like Researcher doesn't have Claude. My chat.
I only have it in Researcher today. I'm looking forward to getting it in chat though, if this is coming.
See, I want it in chat too. I'm kind of surprised I don't see it in Researcher yet. Maybe I'm going to have to go make sure I actually have all my settings set properly for...
You might have blocked it.
Copilot. Maybe. I have a tendency to fiddle.
Or you got to make sure your tenant's in a place where you're allowed to have it. So I made this mistake at work. I was showing some folks Researcher with Claude and like how much more I liked it. And they happen to be over in Germany where due to kind of local laws, they're not allowed to have it. It's been locked out and done due to the worker council over there. That's another interesting thing I think to think about too is depending on your business, are you national, international, all those things? Can you float it? Like, is it actually, are you going to be able to give a consistent experience to your users?
Scott, I just clicked in my settings in my chat in like my M365 Copilot app in chat and went to settings and I had an update. So I clicked the update button. And now in my chat, I can choose between Claude Sonnet and GPT.
There you go. Look at that. It's just an update away from you.
I don't have it in Researcher yet, but I do have it in chat. Go figure. I wonder if I did something and blocked it in Researcher.
Who knows? You got to dive to like the 7th level of the admin center to figure out the operational control all the way down there at the bottom.
Yeah, apparently. I have this bad habit of fiddling with my tenant to figure stuff out. And then I forget that I fiddled with it and something doesn't work and it's really my own fault.
Look at that. We were going to talk about GPO and Intune today. We spent the whole time on E7s and everything that's coming there. So I'm kind of curious for folks that are out there and listening, like give us a ping on LinkedIn, on the podcast account, or give Ben and I a tag. Like if you're thinking about adopting the E7 or not adopting it, or kind of what's interesting to you as a consumer there. I think there's a bunch of interesting ways to kind of go with this one for customers.
100%. And we'll have to come back to GPOs and Intune at another time.
Well, we got all the notes and everything for it. So I think we're okay.
Exactly. Next time. All right. Well, thanks, Scott. Appreciate it. Yeah. Enjoy your day. Yeah. Like you said, let us know your thoughts on E7. Look forward to hearing from people.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Scott. Talk to you next time. If you enjoyed the podcast, go leave us a 5-star rating in iTunes. It helps to get the word out so more IT pros can learn about Office 365 and Azure. If you have any questions you want us to address on the show or feedback about the show, feel free to reach out via our website, Twitter, or Facebook. Thanks again for listening and have a great day.